I don't think how many unsupervised children get on here and watch this. But hopefully most of the people, hopefully people that subscribe to me, that view my videos, watch my channel, they're the ones that are over 18, right? And at least they are adults. So what I have here is I have this program that I signed up for because I like to use it, so I signed up for it. It's like $4.99 per week. Well, so I just signed up and I thought, I'll use this a lot and it's good. It gives out good information. I just started using you can take a photo of something and it will describe in words what the photo you just took is. It's kind of interesting. The one I use is called Chat AI, and it's on go to the Google Play Store or go to your it'll generate conversations like so. Instead of searching, right, the internet, let's say you're interested in something, a subject or whatever, you search for it, and then you got to go to the website, and then you got to go, what's in that website? You got to go scroll through the website and find that particular subject or a forum or wherever. I think it's cheating because it uses information that one of the ones I use, which is, I think, in some ways better than this one that I have subscription for, is the one that's the Meta AI. The Meta AI will go in and find other people that's had like conversations, or it'll find responses or chat logs of that subject in other areas that it has access to, and it'll compile it and it'll reform the sentences to structure it around what your query is. It will relevant to what your questions you're asking or the subject material you're bringing up when you type it and enter it in. It goes and it generates a response to that. And I couldn't figure out in the beginning. Everybody was all excited about AI and what AI was going to do, and then the moguls in the business world were saying it's going to take over. They're afraid, right? They're afraid of it. Well, why are they afraid of it? It's just better software, right? I mean, isn't that the whole thing about electronics and communication and software? Isn't it always getting better and better and better, improving and improving and improving, right, on itself? And the impetus is, how can it make money, right? I mean, that's what most everybody thinks about, is how can I use this as a tool to make money, to make a profit by using it. What do I gain from it, right? What good is it to me, right? You can make a neat picture. Yeah, I'll make a picture you describe a picture, right? And it'll like, okay, I went to like waterfall rainbow with a hummingbird, and it made a painting. It made a painting of waterfalls, of a hummingbird flying, and then the rainbow. So it does that. It does weird things like that. And you could get you just think of the oddest things you could think of, right? And compile and bring those together in images. It'll do that for you, which is weird. I don't think I've really come to really get that into that too much. Now I was using Google Lens for a while. I was on I was hiking around, and I wanted to identify plants, and I didn't have a book with me to look up the bit, what kind of a leaf and a stem and a flower, whatever how the plant looks. So I take a picture of the plant or the tree or part of the tree, and it would look it up and it would find examples of that in Google Lens. So I read that was kind of exciting, but the whole idea of you can, this whole thing, right? It's like having some really smart person it's like having a really smart person to have a conversation with. It's finding the most expert person in that field, and it's recovering, it's compiling word formatted sentences that go that you can see its limitation, right? If it gives you very general responses, sometimes it's so overgeneralized, right? You have to be, but if you follow the generalizations, if you find things in the given text, right, and it says something that you don't know, that you learn about, that's like, wow, I didn't ever even do that. I always presume things like, okay, Giordano Bruno, he was persecuted, and he was burned at the stake for having claimed that there was more than one world. He went past the teachings of the church, and was delved into hermetical ideas, or ideas that were proposed by other philosophers about the nature of the universe, about being more than one world, and then the sun was a star. And I started to wonder, did he learned from Copernicus? I learned that. I thought, where did he get his information from? How did he know what he knew at the time? And I think he was really influenced by Copernicus, which that shed a light on that, because I thought maybe he knew Galileo, or he had looked through telescopes while he was alive. I thought maybe but that preceded his time. So he was after he died, then the telescope was invented. So I was confused. I thought maybe he had really good eyesight. So I asked about, did Giordano Bruno have exceptionally good eyesight? And it said it didn't know, And I said, well, how did he know? Did he see the sky really? Could he see the sky really well? Or where he lived but he looked up in the sky, maybe he could see the planets around Jupiter. Maybe he had really, really good eyesight, so he could deduce from what he saw in the sky that the sun was a star. And that, so it's good that you could do that. Otherwise, you'd have to look. Otherwise, like if I looked up Giordano Bruno, I could look him up and I could read about his life and I could see his date of birth, and then I could go to Copernicus and see when he was born and see when he published his ideas, this heliocentric model of the solar system. Before Copernicus, everybody accepted the idea of Ptolemy's, that the Earth was a center. Everything revolved around the Earth. The sun revolved around the Earth. All the planets revolved around the Earth. And Copernicus, he deduced that, he figured out, well, the epicycles of the planets, of the positions of Mars in the sky, and Venus too, they don't follow a normal, when they're looked at on a night by night basis. They don't follow a normal path and then go on the same path. They actually go in the sky and then they turn around a little bit, make a loop, and then they keep going. They didn't know that the Earth, in relationship to that planet, that the Earth was turning around the sun faster, and it's catching up. It's going past it. It's catching up on the other planet that's further away, which was Mars. So that's why it does that cycle. It goes up in the sky and then it turns around and it keeps going. They didn't know that back then, but Copernicus figured it out. And knowing what he knew, then Giordano Bruno was influenced by him, because he knew how to write, he knew how to read, and he knew how to write, which was very, very, very few people could read and write in antiquity. This is pre-Gutenberg printing press era, so then I started questioning, like, there have been times where I've questioned my own sanity, is in regards to do animals have souls? So my coworker worked in the office with me he looked at me strange and he said, "You believe animals have souls?" Like that, because he started talking about his barbecue, and they had they watched the game and they had a barbecue and they had wings, and they were eating like steak and a barbecue sauce and burgers, and that was a big fun thing for the family to get together and have a barbecue. And he was asking me, "Yeah, what do you do? Do you guys do barbecue? What do you have? Like we barbecue." And I started to like talk without thinking about, well, I'm in a work environment. I'm here to uh, produce value for the company I'm working for. I'm on the time clock, and I want to have to work with this guy every single day. And he's in the same office as me, and I don't want to have to explain myself why I think the way I think. And I just kind of said, I don't really go out. I don't barbecue that much. I don't really barbecue. And it was the same thing at company functions. So the company would have a lunch for everybody, and they have steak, or they have like salmon, or they'd have like a pizza, and they have like buy pizzas for everybody. Have this real cheesy pizzas, and to have a barbecue, right? Give everybody, they stand in line and have barbecues and cook burgers for everybody to celebrate like certain like milestones at the company lunches. And I would always just get like the salad and the bread, right? And I wouldn't get any. I'd sit down at the picnic tables with my coworkers. Everybody would look at me strange, going, "Why aren't you eating? Aren't you hungry? Why aren't you having lunch? Hey, we're all having lunch. Look what I have. Get some of this. This is good." And they're trying to like, they think I'm being odd. I'm being peculiar or strange that I don't eat any meat. That they don't, and it's like, and as far as like, if I try to explain myself, many times the response I got was I had a mental illness, or I overthought too much about where the food came from. And I was like, well, why don't you just enjoy your food and like it, have a good time, and eat like everybody else is eating? Don't. And it's like, I was weird because I would be like, well, I don't want that. I don't, it's not that I don't like the taste of it. It's just that, I try to be as like, as polite as I could be, and not delve too much into explaining in detail why I don't want a burger, or why I don't want to eat a pizza with cheese on it, or why I don't want to eat a hot dog, or have ice cream, or steak, or chicken wings, or anything, or fish, or anything like that. I have to try to explain to somebody at my job that works in the same office as me, that loves to eat meat, eats meat every day, just about. That's a normal thing. I mean, that's how I grew up. The household I was brought up in, we all ate meat every meal. And it wasn't only up until my late 30s and early 40s that I really was I tried to be vegan, more vegetarian when I was younger, because I didn't really like the idea of things like, I think it was Upton Sinclair's The Jungle. I had to read that in grade school. I read Upton Sinclair. It was in the library, right? At the school library. So I read it. I was like, oh my God, this is disgusting. These slaughterhouses and all these big stockyards full of cows. And he's talking about them, how they're getting all cut up, and the blood's everywhere. And it's the sound of the cows. And it was like, oh my gosh. And then I met somebody that was my boss's wife, who was like really trying to explain to me about vegetarian, because she was like, okay, it's vegetarians, okay, you drink milk, that's okay. Cheese and eggs is okay. That was her. But and then the Hare Krishnas, but it wasn't really like, you don't just do that. You don't live a certain way because a movie star lives that way, or an athlete, or somebody that's like a well-known person. You're not copying them you're not trying to imitate someone else because it's a fashion, or you don't eat a certain way just because you want to keep your weight down or be more physically fit. It's not, that was never really, you're never, in the very beginning for me, it wasn't like that was my main reason for trying to be on a plant-based diet. What set everything in, what trying to be, do I want to reincarnate as that animal? That's what I asked myself. That I asked myself, if I had to reincarnate and come back as a someone else or something else, that's a thing. If I had to be come back and reincarnate, I wouldn't want to reincarnate as a cow being, or a bird, or in a bird brain, in a bird being born in a farm, in a factory farm. I wouldn't want to experience a lifetime of being an animal raised for meat and going into a slaughter, being slaughtered. And is it like, okay, maybe you are crazy to think that you as a human being could imagine yourself being some other kind of animal. So you imagine being trapped. You imagine being chased. You imagine being prodded and poked. You imagine yourself being confined. You imagine yourself as a slave. You imagine yourself being excessively hot. You imagine being an excessively crowded and noisy place that's dirty and loud and noisy and smelly, or cold, or being aching, having aches and pains, and being alive and living through the experience of being that animal in a cage or on a farm. So that somebody would say, oh, you're overthinking. No, you're thinking too hard. The animals are like they're asleep, right? They don't feel anything. They're just kind of like they're a puppet, right? They're just like a mechanical animatronic machine without any feelings. There's nothing you see, they have an eye, yeah, they have an ear, they have skin, yeah, they have a nervous system, which is a really, really, really small nervous system compared to your really, really, really big nervous system. So you're just like overthinking about it, and you're dismissed as being weak-willed or weak-minded or too emotional. And what I did is I went on to the chat AI, and I tried to find out the disconnect, why people have a disconnect between their food, what they're eating, and the experience at another level of another kind of organism. That's very similar in the way a nerve is. The nerve, the axon, the dendrite, the cell body, the Schwann cell, the myelin sheath, the potassium chlorine, the ionization through a nerve fiber, the firing of the nerve cell, the dendrites, the dendritic connections, and all the electrical chemical processes that are involved in making up a nervous system in a complex organism, mammalian organism. Or so it's like, and I try to, if it's like, well, I don't want to have any meal with you anymore. You just like, you're a downer, right? You're a Debbie Downer. So when we get together, we have our barbecues, or we have our big Thanksgiving dinners with our turkey and our milk and our cheeses and all our pies and cookies and cakes and everything made out of eggs, right? Because you can't so it's like really, really, really hard to find candy that's chocolate that doesn't have milk in it. It's really, really, really hard to find like good corn chips or chips that don't have cheese, anything that doesn't have cheese on it or milk in it, right? So I go to like, okay, I like pizza, right? I really do like pizza. But so I went to I went to these are from my cat actually. She likes it if I play with her. So I'm constantly trying to amuse my cat. When she comes up to me, she either wants me to amuse her or she wants some canned food. Lately, she wants canned food. There's been some big flies in the house, and she's been trying to run around. She's trying to catch the flies. You'll see her. She's down there. She looks black and white. She's a tuxedo. They're called tuxedo cats. So I was going to do some of this chat AI. It says, hello, I'm chat AI. You can ask me any questions. Can someone experience themselves if they have no brain? No brain. So this is a question for anybody that believes in supernatural, which a lot of the people I know do. So a lot of people I know believe in the supernatural. So this is my question. Can someone experience themselves if they have no brain? Okay, give me the answer. Can someone experience themselves if they have no brain? It's thinking. It's thinking. Little thinking hard. I don't know. I got to restart. It's having a problem. Oh, no, don't ask that question. I can't answer that. All right, I got to restart here. It's hung up here. Let me ask that again here. So I use AI chat. I tried to show the logo there. Okay. Is it possible to exist without a brain? Is it possible to exist without a brain? And the answer is, and it really gives a really smart answer. It doesn't dicker. It doesn't mess around with what you would think would be dumb, right? With somebody, like if you ask somebody on the street, normally you ask an average person out in a crowd somewhere, if you're walking around, you just stop them and confront them and ask a question. They wouldn't say this, right? They would say, "Oh, I leave. I'm going to go to heaven, right? There's God I'm going to be judged, and there's going to be a judgment day, and I'm going to be a ghost, and I'll be floating around, or I'll be like an angel, you know." Okay, in biological terms, every living organism has some form of a nervous system, but not all possess a brain, as it is typically defined. For example, many invertebrates, such as jellyfish and sea stars, do not have a centralized brain, yet can exhibit complex behaviors and responses to their environment. Instead, they have simpler nerve nets of decentralized systems. If you're considering existence in the broader philosophical or metaphysical sense, one could argue that consciousness and awareness might not solely rely on a brain. This leads to discussions about artificial intelligence or potential forms of life that don't conform to our traditional definitions of biological existence. However, for sentient beings with higher cognitive functions, a brain or a similar organ is generally essential for processing information, making decisions, and interacting with the world. Here's another question. Can I know I'm dead? Can I know if I am dead? Can I know if I'm dead? If you are questioning whether you are dead, it generally indicates that you are alive. Consciousness and self-awareness are tied to being alive. If you can think and ask questions and reflect on your state of being, then you are likely not dead. Philosophical or existential discussions, however, one might examine concepts such as near-death experiences or the nature of consciousness beyond physical existence. But from a practical standpoint, being able to ponder your existence is an indication of life. If you're experiencing feelings of disconnection or questioning your existence more deeply, it may be helpful to talk to a professional who can provide support and guidance. Is reincarnation scientifically provable? That's a dumb question, but it's kind of what I do. I ask these dumb questions, right? And okay, reincarnation, common. The belief that a soul can be reborn into a new body after death is primarily a religious and philosophical concept rather than one grounded in empirical science. As of now, there is no scientific evidence that definitely proves the existence of reincarnation. Several studies have been conducted, particularly by researchers like Dr. Ian Stevenson, who investigated cases of children who claim to remember past lives. While some anecdotal reports have been compelling, they do not constitute rigorous scientific proof, as they often rely on subjective experience and interpretations. From a scientific perspective, concepts such as consciousness, identity, and what happens after death are still subjects of much debate and research. Neuroscience tend to focus on brain function and its relation to consciousness rather than metaphysical concepts like reincarnation. Thus, while many cultures and belief systems embrace reincarnation, it remains outside the realm of provable scientific theory. Okay, now I could go and ask it that it only can be proven to oneself. It's wholly subjective. Is it only subjective? So it's only subjective entirely, personal, and ultimately private. All right. Only subjective, entirely personal, and ultimately private. Yes, experience of reincarnation or any beliefs regarding life after death often falls into the realm of subjective experience. Personal beliefs and interpretations can vary widely depending upon culture, spiritual, individual factors. There are points to consider. Subjectivity, personal experiences, feelings, and interpretations regarding reincarnation are deeply individual. What one person believes or experiences may differ significantly from another's perspective. Two, cultural influence. Beliefs about life after death and reincarnation are heavily influenced by cultural backgrounds, religious teachings, and personal upbringing. These factors shape individual views on existence and consciousness. Privacy of beliefs. Such beliefs are often personal and may be shared only with close friends, family, or within specific communities. The subjective nature of these beliefs makes them difficult to discuss openly or validate through objective measures. Existence of diverse perspectives. Many philosophical systems, and belief structures address questions of life, death, and what may come after, leading to a rich tapestry of viewpoints. Some may find comfort in the idea of reincarnation, while others may hold different beliefs about what happens after death. Ultimately, beliefs about reincarnation are personal and exist in a space where individual understanding and experience may play a crucial role. If this universe is eternal, will my life repeat? If this universe is eternal, will my life repeat? The idea that if the universe is eternal, one's life might repeat relates closely to philosophical concepts such as eternal recurrence and certain interpretations of the nature of time and existence. Here are a few points to consider regarding this topic. Eternal recurrence, this philosophical concept suggests that the universe and all the events within it repeat infinitely in a cyclical fashion. If this were true, it could imply that your life, or a very similar version of it, might replay endlessly. Two, scientific perspectives. In current scientific paradigms, particularly within cosmology, the fate of the universe and the nature of time are topics of significant inquiry. Some theories, like the Big Bang and potential Big Crunch or heat death scenarios, imply that the universe may not be eternal in a straightforward sense. Thus, the idea of life repeating itself remains speculative. Quantum mechanics and multiverse theory. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest the existence of multiverses or alternate timelines, which might lead to different versions of existence playing out in parallel. However, these ideas are still theoretical and not universally accepted. 4. Philosophical implications. The question touches upon deeper philosophical inquiries regarding meaning, purpose, and identity. Some might argue that the uniqueness of each moment and the choices we make lend our lives significance, regardless of whether they could repeat. Personal experience. Regardless of the theories posited about the universe as a whole, the subjective experience of life is unique to each individual. This perspective emphasizes the value of the present moment and how we choose to live our lives now. In conclusion, while the notion of life repeating in an eternal universe is intriguing idea, it remains a topic of primarily rooted in philosophical theoretical discussions rather than empirical science. So, if my consciousness, if a consciousness is an entirely material process, is it logical to think it will repeat? Again, if the universe has no ending, or is cyclical. So, if a consciousness is an entirely, the consciousness is, I don't know why it's hard for me to type with one finger, is it entirely, let's see, I'm going to hit the B instead of the N. Is it entirely LY material process? Is it logical to think it will repeat again in the universe? In the universe, in a universe that has no ending or beginning. If this universe has no or is cyclical, there we go. Okay. If a consciousness is an entirely material process, is it logical to think it will repeat again if the universe has no ending or is cyclical? The question of whether consciousness as a material process could repeat in an eternal or cyclical universe involves several complex considerations at the intersection of philosophy, neuroscience, and cosmology. Here are some key points to explore. 1. Material basis of consciousness. If consciousness is entirely a product of physical processes in the brain, as many neuroscientists suggest, then, in theory, if those conditions were replicated, similar conscious experiences could arise. However, even small variations in circumstances could lead to different outcomes, making exact repetition unlikely. 2. Eternal cycle of universes. If the universe were indeed eternal or cyclical, as some cosmological models suggest, it raises questions about the nature of time and events. In a cyclical universe, the exact conditions for a particular event could theoretically recur, leading to a re-experience of the same conscious state. However, this would depend on many variables remaining unchanged over vast stretches of time. 3. Unique experiences. Even in a theoretically identical scenario, individual experiences are shaped by countless factors, including environmental choices, interactions, and even quantum uncertainties. Therefore, while the material processes might recur, the resulting consciousness could be different due to these countless variations. 4. Philosophical implications. The idea of consciousness repeating also invokes philosophical questions about identity and continuity. If a consciousness were to repeat, would it be considered the same consciousness, or would it be a new instance of mindful experience? This brings into consideration concepts of self and continuity. Existential questions. If consciousness is purely material and the universe is eternal, it raises questions about meaning and purpose. Would knowing that experiences might repeat affect how one lives their life? This could lead to different interpretations of existence and routine. In summary, while there is a philosophical allure to the idea that consciousness could repeat in an eternal or cyclical universe, practical considerations around the uniqueness of experiences and the complexities of consciousness and identity suggest that exact repetition may be improbable. The inquiry touches on profound issues regarding the nature of existence, identity, and the relationship between material processes and conscious experience. Can time be experienced while being non-existent. Can time be experienced while being non-existent? The concept of experiencing time while being non-existent raises complex philosophical and metaphysical questions. Here are some key points to consider. One, defining non-existence. Non-existence implies the absence of being conscious or awareness. If something does not exist, it cannot have experiences, including the passage of time. Experience, by definition, requires an entity capable of perceiving or encountering phenomena. Two, philosophical perspective. Philosophers have contemplated the nature of time extensively. For example, some argue that time is a fundamental aspect of the universe, intrinsically linked to events and change. From this viewpoint, if one is non-existent, they cannot engage with time, since there is no consciousness to perceive its flow. Three, temporal awareness. Humans and other conscious beings perceive time through experiences, memories, anticipation, and the progression of events. This notion is heavily tied to awareness and existence. If a being lacks existence, it cannot possess awareness, making temporal experience impossible. Theoretical considerations. Some philosophical thought experiments explore scenarios where time might exist independently of conscious beings, but those scenarios are fundamentally abstract. For instance, in theories of time that suggest it as a dimension, time would still require entities within it to experience or measure its passage. Five, quantum mechanics and time. In interpretations of quantum mechanics, there are discussions about time being non-linear or existing in multiple states. However, even in complex quantum scenarios, experience is still tied to conscious observers. Non-existence would preclude any form of awareness or experience. In conclusion, the idea of experience time while being non-existent conflicts with the fundamental understanding of existence, consciousness, and perception. Experience, including the experience of time, inherently requires a conscious entity capable of awareness. Thus, in traditional sense, it is not logically coherent to think of time being experienced without existence. I'll leave it at that.